It was a warm and languid afternoon in the late summer of 1914, the eve of a new century's madness, though neither I nor my old friend could have foreseen it then. The sun had cast a mellow light upon the quiet lanes of Sussex, and the countryside rolled in peaceful folds, innocent of the storm clouds gathering over Europe. I had come down to visit Holmes, not at Baker Street, for those famous lodgings were long behind us, but at his little farmstead upon the Downs, where the greatest detective of the age had, to all appearances, retired from the world. I confess, dear listener, that I had expected to find him grey and bowed by years, but as I turned the path and caught sight of that familiar lean figure stooping among his beehives, my heart leapt with an affection that time had not dimmed. He raised his head, saw me, and in an instant the keen hawk-like eyes were alight with welcome.
My dear Watson, you arrived precisely at the hour I had calculated. The 2003 train from Victoria, delayed by 9 minutes at Lewes owing to a signal failure, placed you here at 3042. Your boots, I observe, carry the light reddish dust of the lane, which confirms your choice to walk the last mile rather than take the village trap.
Now, Mewin, you never cease to astonish me, Holmes. I declare you have not changed an inch, though I cannot but notice a few more lines upon your brow.
Uh, Lines are the inevitable signature of thought, my dear fellow. A bee cannot gather honey without leaving some wax behind. But come, let us retire indoors. I have a small bottle of Tokay and a problem of no little interest to lay before you.
Ha! Then your bees are not your sole occupation after all.
My bees are most industrious, Watson, but not half so industrious as the enemies of this nation. Even in my retreat, I find it difficult to keep my fingers from the pulse of Europe. There are whispers, rumours, of forces stirring across the Channel and of men within our own borders who serve them.
You speak of spies, Holmes.
Precisely. Spies, the unseen contagion of nations. Come, the sitting room awaits. Mrs. Esses, Hudson's successor, has knocked your old flair for tea, but she keeps the place tolerably tidy.
We entered the little cottage, whose shelves were crowded not with medical tomes or chemical retorts, but with manuals on apiculture, volumes of botany, and, to my great satisfaction, a violin resting upon its stand by the window. The air was redolent with tobacco and honeycomb, and yet beneath it all, there hung the faint, unmistakable atmosphere of restless intellect, the electric tension that had always surrounded Holmes at Baker Street.
Now, Watson, observe this envelope. It was delivered to me by special messenger this morning, bearing no return mark, written in a German hand, yet posted in Eastbourne. Pray, read it aloud.
Reading slowly, to Mr. Pine, to Mr. Sherlock Holmes, formerly of Baker Street, urgent matter concerning the future of England. A visitor will arrive at the cliffs by dusk. Your assistance, if you value your country's safety, is requested. There is no signature, Holmes.
None. And yet I believe I know the author. Sock,
To curb. Indeed, whose hand penned that cryptic note?
Baron Von Bork, a name which should be familiar to the readers of our nation's dispatches, though not yet to the public. He is the crown jewel in the German espionage system, operating upon English soil these past years. His network has eluded even our cleverest counter-agents. And now, my dear Watson, it appears he seeks me out.
But to what purpose? Surely not to invite his own exposure?
That, my dear fellow, is precisely what we must determine. There are only two possibilities. Either he believes me neutralized and wishes to boast, or he intends to strike a bargain. Either way, I intend to make full use of his visit.
You mean to meet him?
Tonight, at the cliffs beyond the lane, the very setting chosen by our mysterious friend. You shall accompany me, of course.
My old heart leapt at the thought. After so long an absence from the thrilling chase, it was as though the ghosts of Baker Street stirred again. I saw the flicker of the old fire in Holmes's eyes, and I knew that the game, that immortal phrase of his, was afoot once more. The hours crept by with tantalizing slowness. We dined simply, bread, cheese, and a modest glass of claret, and as the sun sank, painting the downs with the hue of molten copper, Holmes rose from his chair and reached for a familiar tweed coat and deerstalker.
A little disguise, Watson. Even the Sussex bees must not suspect who walks among them tonight.
We set forth along the narrow lane, the air alive with the song of crickets and the scent of heather. The sea, far below, murmured against the cliffs like some ancient and patient thing. At length, we reached a weathered path descending toward a rocky promontory. There, upon a jut of stone, a solitary figure stood, silhouetted against the dying light. He was tall, broad shouldered, and immaculately dressed, his stance that of a man accustomed to command. The wind tugged at his cloak, revealing a hard, clean shaven face and eyes as cold as the channel waters.
Softly, Von Bork himself. Stand close, Watson. I have reason to believe our friend carries more than words in his pockets.
With accent, "Ah, Herr Holmes, or should I say, Mr. Beekeeper?" I confess, I had begun to doubt whether the great detective still lived. England grows so sleepy, ja?
We English have our seasons, Baron. Some appear dormant, yet beneath the soil the roots grow strong.
How poetic. You must forgive me. I did not come for verses. I came for business. You were always a man of reason, and I? Well, I am a man of science. There is no need for war between such men.
On the contrary, Baron, reason compels me to act when men of science forget the distinction between knowledge and treachery.
Big words. And yet you have retired, have you not? You tend your bees while empires are built. Why then should you trouble yourself with my affairs?
Because, Baron, I know the names of your agents in London, Liverpool, and Portsmouth. I know the cipher in which your reports are sent to Berlin. I know even the man who delivers them, the so-called Irish American who visits your house near Harwich every fortnight.
Startled. You lie.
Elementary, my dear Baron. But before we bandy words, perhaps you will tell me what brought you to my door under the guise of an unsigned letter.
Very well. You are clever, Holmes, but even you must see the tide turning. Soon, England will kneel before a power she cannot match. I offer you safety. And gold, if you will serve reason instead of sentiment. Work with us. You are wasted here.
I could scarcely believe my ears. The audacity of the man was beyond comprehension.
My dear Baron, you flatter me and insult yourself. I have devoted my life to the service of reason, yes, but also to the service of justice. And justice, I fear, has little commerce with your emperor's ambitions.
Then you choose to perish with your crumbling island.
I choose to serve it.
In that instant, the tension was palpable. Two minds, sharp as rapiers, crossing in the gathering dark. Von Bork's hand drifted toward his coat pocket. Holmes's gaze followed it, calm but unyielding.
I should advise you, Baron, not to reach for the pistol. Its barrel, if I mistake not, has not been cleaned since your journey from Rotterdam, and the salt air plays havoc with mechanism.
Laughs harshly. You see everything, Holmes, but perhaps you do not see this.
There was a flash of metal, but quicker than sight, Holmes's arm shot out, the weapon clattered upon the stones, and the Baron staggered back, cursing in his native tongue. I leapt forward instinctively, but Holmes's gesture held me.
Enough, Watson. Our guest is disarmed and, I dare say, disillusioned. I took the liberty of informing the local constabulary that a suspicious foreigner was abroad upon these cliffs. They will be here within minutes. Numb.
You planned this?
Of course. You summoned me, Baron, but in truth, it was I who summoned you. And now, I think, your service to the Kaiser is at an end.
Von Bork glared at him, and then, with a strange, defeated calm, turned his gaze toward the sea. The waves crashed far below, white and merciless.
Come, Watson, the night grows chill, and there is still much to discuss before dawn.
We left the captured spy to the care of the arriving constables and walked in silence back across the moonlit downs. My mind whirled with questions, but I knew better than to disturb Holmes when he was deep in thought. At last, as the cottage lights came into view, he spoke softly.
The world changes, Watson. The old crimes of jealousy and greed give way to new ones, invisible, calculated, and vast. I fear the next war will not be fought in streets or parlors, but in the shadows between nations.
You speak as though it were inevitable.
It is. But until that day comes, we shall do what we have always done, our duty.
And thus began, dear listener, the last and greatest adventure of Sherlock Holmes, an adventure that would carry us from these peaceful hills into the very heart of the coming storm. The dawn broke over the Sussex hills with a pale, uncertain light, as though even the sun hesitated before entering a world now fraught with new menace. I awoke to the scent of fresh coffee and the distant hum of Holmes's bees. The events of the previous night seemed almost dreamlike. Baron Von Bork's capture, his defiant eyes in the moonlight, the quiet efficiency with which Holmes had arranged the trap. Yet, as I rose and looked upon the lean figure seated by the window, pipe in hand and a sheaf of documents before him, I knew it had been no dream. The great detective was at work again. For a moment, I merely watched him, that familiar pose, the sharp profile cut against the morning light, and the stillness that always heralded a mind racing faster than any locomotive.
Good morning, Watson. You slept soundly, an enviable gift in such times. Coffee is on the sideboard. You will find it acceptable, if not inspiring. I, on the other hand, have been making the acquaintance of our late guest's correspondence.
You mean Von Bork's papers? Surely the police took possession of them?
Indeed they did, upon my instruction, but I retained a small portion. These, you see, were concealed within the lining of his hat. Ingenious, though not original. A roll of microfilm and several coded slips. But here lies the true prize.
Staking the slip. Myrtle, Lavender, Greyhouse. Those are the words.
Exactly. 3 names, but not of persons, Watson. Observe the peculiar capitalization, the spacing, the faint indentations upon the paper. This is not a list, but a code.
Ah, you suspect a cipher.
More than suspect, I am certain. Myrtle and Lavender are not uncommon among English villages. Greyhouse might refer to an establishment or estate, but taken together, they represent coordinates, mental, not geographical. Each word points to a place of meeting used by the German network.
Then Von Bork was not alone in his work. An inquiry.
Precisely so. He was but the spider at the center of a very wide web. Now that he is detained, those threads will tremble, and, if we act swiftly, we may trace them to their source.
You mean to pursue the case further? I had thought your purpose fulfilled.
My dear Watson, to capture the Baron is to remove the head of a serpent, but the body still writhes, and may yet strike. You and I have not yet heard the last hiss of this reptile.
Holmes rose then, his long fingers steepled, his grey eyes gleaming with that fierce light I knew so well. The years had tempered his strength, but not his spirit. He looked once toward the window, where the morning mist still clung to the hedgerows, and his voice took on that quiet intensity which always presaged movement.
Pack lightly, Watson. A train leaves for Harwich within the hour. We go north.
At which, but that is,
The port through which half of England's secrets have found their way into German hands. Exactly. And now that Von Bork is out of play, his agents will attempt to retrieve whatever remains of his intelligence cache. I intend to be there when they do.
as always, I obeyed his summons without question. It was as though the old days had returned, the thrill of pursuit, the crisp morning air, the faint clatter of the hansom carrying us to the station. Holmes, silent beside me, seemed to grow younger with every mile of track that slid past beneath us. By noon we were in Harwich, a bustling port alive with the scent of salt and steam. Sailors shouted upon the quays, gulls wheeled above, and the masts of ships rose like a forest of steel and rope against the sky. Yet amid all that motion there was a tension in the air, a sense that the world stood on the brink of some vast and unseen upheaval.
You perceive the unease, Watson? That is the atmosphere of a nation standing at attention. Within weeks, perhaps days, England will be at war.
I pray it does not come to that.
So do I. Yet if it must, then we shall meet it prepared. And preparation begins here, with observation. Each gala.
Holmes led me through a maze of narrow streets until we came to a modest public house, the King's Arms, whose windows looked out upon the docks. Within, the air was thick with smoke and the hum of sailors' talk. Holmes took a table in the corner, ordered 2 ales, and began to scan the room with that practiced, seemingly idle gaze which missed nothing.
Note the man at the far table, the one with the sailor's cap and a foreign cut of beard. His boots are not those of a seaman. They are made by Kremser of Hamburg, a shoemaker known for his clientele among naval officers. And the ring upon his finger bears the eagle of the Kaiser.
You believe him to be one of Von Bork's agents?
I do more than believe it. I am certain. And the small satchel by his chair likely contains the very documents our friend hoped to convey to Berlin. Patience, Watson. Let him make his move.
But though, we waited, minutes that felt like hours, until at last another figure entered the room. A young man, plainly dressed, carrying a parcel beneath her shawl. She glanced briefly about, then walked straight to the man with the beard. Holmes's hand tightened on his cane.
Observe, Watson, the parcel, wrapped in common paper, but note the double knot upon the string. That is the signal of exchange. She is no messenger, but a courier.
We intervened.
Not yet. Let the fish swallow the bait.
Two spoke in low tones, too soft for us to hear. The man nodded, took the parcel, and slipped a small envelope into the woman's hand. She curtsied and departed. Holmes rose at once.
Now, Watson, follow my lead, and do try not to tread on the man's shadow.
We trailed the agent through the crowded streets, keeping always a half-dozen paces behind. Twice he paused, glancing over his shoulder. Twice Holmes's calm, unhurried step reassured him. At length, he turned down a narrow alley that led toward the harbour. There, beside a shuttered warehouse, he halted and produced a key.
A rendezvous, as I expected. Heave to the wall. Good.
We crept closer. Through a crack in the wooden door, I could make out 2 men within, one already waiting, tall and fair, the other our quarry. Between them lay the parcel, now unwrapped, revealing a small transmitter no larger than a writing case. I gasped. A wireless device.
Precisely. And unless I miss my mark, it is tuned to the frequency used by the German embassy in Brussels. So, the spy's signal at last, the Baron's final gift to his masters.
What are we to do?
Close the net. Quietly. No.
Holmes drew a revolver from his pocket, the old Webby I remembered from our adventures of long ago, and motioned me to the opposite door. At his nod, we burst in simultaneously.
Gentlemen, you are broadcasting upon the wrong frequency. Allow me to correct the error.
Startled? Who? What?
Sherlock Holmes, at your service. As
One, take the case.
Look, a struggle ensued, brief, violent, and wholly chaotic. The taller man lunged toward the transmitter, but Holmes's blows sent him sprawling. I grappled with the second, who fought like a madman until a sudden sharp crack ended it. Holmes's revolver butt descending upon the fellow's temple.
nicely done, Watson. Your old army days have not deserted you.
Nor your aim, Holmes.
Examining the transmitter, this device is ingenious, compact, efficient, and nearly untraceable. Had it gone into operation, half our naval codes might have been compromised before the week's end. The Baron's reach was long indeed.
And yet it ends here, in this dusty dockside room.
For now. But the mind that conceived it still moves beyond our shores. There is a hand in Berlin directing all of this, a master strategist named von Herling. If we are to safeguard England, Watson, we must find a way to reach him.
Oh, surely he is beyond our grasp.
Beyond our grasp, perhaps, but not beyond our influence. The captured agents will speak, given time. Meanwhile, I shall employ a more subtle weapon, misinformation.
A trap of your own?
Precisely. I intend to feed Berlin a series of false signals through channels they already trust. By the time they discover the deception, it will be too late. The invasion plans they believe secure will lead only to confusion.
Holmes's eyes gleamed with the fierce light of strategy. The same light I had seen when he faced Mo. He saw reality across the Leichenbach Falls. He was no longer merely a detective, but a soldier in the shadowed war that precedes the open one. That night, as the agents were taken away under guard, Holmes and I stood again by the quay. The tide lapped softly against the stones, and the lamps of the harbour burned like watchful eyes upon the water. He was silent for a long time, his gaze fixed upon the horizon.
The sea, Watson, ever constant, ever treacherous. So it is with men. Beneath the calm surface, there are always currents we do not see.
Blake, you speak as one who foresees dark times.
I do. But dark times bring bright men, and England, thank heaven, still has both.
He smiled faintly, the old sardonic curve of the lips I knew so well, and turned toward the station. The night wind stirred his coat as we walked, and for the first time I felt the full weight of years pressing upon us both, and yet, beneath it, the indomitable pulse of adventure. Thus ended the affair of the spy and the signal. But as I was soon to learn, it was but the prelude to a greater game, one that would carry Holmes into the very heart of enemy intrigue. The events at Harwich had left me both exhilarated and uneasy, for though Holmes had once again triumphed over the shadowy forces that sought to undermine England, I could not shake the feeling that greater dangers yet loomed unseen. His demeanour in the following days did little to reassure me. He was quieter, more reflective, and though the twinkle of intellect never dimmed in his grey eyes, there was about him an air of melancholy, the shadow perhaps of age or foresight. Cut! We had returned to Sussex, where the bees buzzed industriously about their hives, indifferent to human intrigue. Yet Holmes was restless. He spent long hours in a study, poring over maps of Europe and cryptic telegrams from his contacts in London. I, as ever, could not refrain from curiosity. One evening, as the last rays of the sun slanted across the room, I ventured a question. You have been unusually occupied these past few days, Holmes. May I ask upon what your mind is now engaged?
You may ask, Watson, though whether you comprehend the answer is another matter. I am engaged, my dear fellow, upon a game of chess in which the board is Europe and the pieces are men.
A grim metaphor, Holmes.
A necessary one. Our capture of Von Bork and the interception of his signal have disrupted but not destroyed the German network in England. The Baron's master, Von Hurling, is aware of the loss and seeks to repair it. In doing so, he has turned his eyes toward a new agent, one who, unfortunately, operates under the guise of British loyalty.
A traitor?
Precisely, a traitor of the most dangerous kind, the patriot turned spy. He is known to the intelligence department only as the Raven. His task is to gather naval intelligence and to lure British officials into unwitting correspondence with Berlin. My task, therefore, is to become the Raven.
You mean to impersonate him?
I do. The true Raven, as it happens, has been intercepted upon the continent by our allies. His absence will not yet be known to Von Hurling's circle. It affords us a brief, invaluable window in which I may assume his identity and thus feed our enemies a steady diet of falsehood.
Holmes, this is perilous in the extreme. If they discover your deception,
Then I shall vanish as I have before. Fear not, Watson. I have cheated death once at the Reichenbach. I fancy I may do so again.
and my role in this dangerous masquerade?
You, my dear friend, will be my witness and my physician in case the masquerade grows too convincing for my constitution. Now come, we leave for London by the morning train.
Thus began what I was later to regard as the most perilous of all our adventures. The following day saw us once more amid the familiar roar and bustle of London. It was strange to walk again through those fog-lit streets with Holmes at my side, strange and strangely comforting. Sick. Yet Baker Street, it says, was no longer ours. The lodgings had passed into other hands. Holmes had arranged instead for rooms in a discreet town-house in Bloomsbury, where he began at once to effect his transformation. Hoyle Bisway. Before my astonished eyes, he became another man entirely. The famous aquiline features softened under subtle applications of pigment. His hair darkened to a sable hue, a faint scar appeared upon his cheek, and a monocle gleamed where once keen eyes had glared unimpeded.
There, Watson, what think you? Abuse. Go.
Astonishing, you could pass unnoticed in your own reflection.
Let us hope so. Tonight we attend a sudden reception at the German embassy, a minor affair, ostensibly celebrating the appointment of a new attaché. In truth, it will serve as the perfect hunting ground for those who trade in secrets. Von Herling's agents will be there. So, alas, will we.
The evening found us amidst the glittering assembly of London's diplomatic society. The chandeliers of the embassy blazed with light, casting their brilliance upon uniforms and jewels. The air was heavy with perfume and intrigue. Holmes, now the Raven, moved with effortless assurance among the guests, speaking in low tones, his accent clipped and foreign enough to deceive. I kept to the periphery, feigning the dull air of a provincial doctor, yet I could not help but admire his poise. He seemed utterly transformed, the keen observer turned consummate actor.
Softly, her Raven, you are late.
Bowing slightly, the tides of Dover detained me. Fräulein Elise, I trust our mutual friend has forgiven my absence.
Von Herling forgives nothing, but he respects results. Do you have them?
I have what he most desires, the new naval encryption code, complete and unbroken.
Eyes narrowing. You speak boldly. May I see it?
In due course, such gifts are not displayed in crowded rooms. A more private exchange is appropriate. Perhaps tomorrow evening at Greyhouse, near Richmond.
Greyhouse. So the message was genuine. We feared the English police had found it.
The police? Mere insects. They buzz, but they sting only themselves.
Very well. Tomorrow then, 8 o'clock. Be certain you come alone.
Naturally.
She moved away, melting into the crowd like a shadow. Holmes turned slightly, his eyes catching mine from across the room, a brief flicker of triumph. Later, as we departed into the fog, I could no longer restrain my questions. Greyhouse again, the name from Von Bork's note.
Exactly. It appears the location serves as both meeting ground and relay station for the entire network. If we can uncover its full operation, we can crush the German intelligence in England at one blow.
But this Eliza, she is clearly no fool.
Indeed not. She is Elise von Hinden, cousin to von Herling himself, and the most dangerous woman in Europe. Her record in espionage is exceptional. She will test me tomorrow, and should I fail, we shall both vanish from England's history.
Then what can we do?
Prepare, my dear Watson, and hope that I can lie as convincingly as I deduce.
The following evening was one of gathering storm, not only in the skies but in the hearts of men. Clouds rolled low above the Thames, and the wind moaned among the chimneys as we approached the great brooding house known as Greyhouse. It stood upon the outskirts of Richmond, half hidden by trees, its windows faintly aglow.
Remain here, Watson. I go in alone. Should I not emerge within an hour, you know what to do.
I protested, but his expression brooked no argument. He pressed my hand briefly and vanished into the darkness. I waited, pacing, listening, every nerve on edge. Minutes dragged like hours. Course, once I thought I heard a cry, then silence. Course, at length, unable to endure the suspense, I crept toward the house. Through a crack in the shuttered window, I saw a dimly lit room. Elise seated at a table opposite her, Holmes in his disguise. Between them lay a folder of papers.
Coldly. These codes, they are correct. You have done well, her Raven. And yet something troubles me. You speak with the precision of an Englishman.
Years of practice. I learned their tongue to better deceive them.
Rising, perhaps. Or perhaps the deception is mine. Tell me, her Raven, what was the passphrase in our last communique from Berlin?
Calmly, the eagle sleeps upon the oak.
Smiling faintly indeed. Yet the true phrase was, the eagle wakes beneath the oak.
My blood ran cold. She had sprung the trap.
You are no raven. Who are you?
Removing monocle. My name, madam, is Sherlock Holmes.
Startled, Holmes? Then Von Bork.
In custody. And so, I regret, are you?
You think to arrest me, my dear detective? This house is surrounded by men loyal to Germany. You shall not leave it alive.
At that moment, the shutters burst inward with a crash. I had fetched reinforcements, Inspector Lestrade and half a dozen armed men from the intelligence bureau. They swarmed into the room as Holmes stepped back.
Timing, my dear Watson, always timing. Elise von Hinden, I believe you are acquainted with Scotland Yard?
Hissing, you have not won, Holmes. You cannot stop what comes. Germany rises. England we burn.
Perhaps, but not tonight. Oh,
She was taken away, struggling but silent, her eyes blazing with hatred. Holmes, though outwardly calm, was pale beneath the lamplight. Holmes, are you hurt?
only my pride, Watson. I had hoped to maintain the disguise longer, but in the end it sufficed. We have struck the final blow at von Hurling's network. England may sleep a little safer tonight.
You say final, Holmes. Do you mean this truly is the end?
For me, yes. My work is done. The younger men will carry it forward. The game changes, Watson. Its rules are written in wireless signals and diplomatic cables, not footprints and cigar ash. It is time for me to lay aside the violin and the magnifying glass.
And yet, I said, the world may still need you.
The world shall have others, but only one, Watson.
My throat tightened, and for a moment I could not speak. Outside, the wind had died, and the first star shone faintly through the clearing clouds. Holmes turned to the window, his silhouette framed against the night.
The storm gathers, old friend. Europe will soon be aflame. But when the smoke clears, perhaps men will remember that reason and loyalty are not dead. Until then, we have done our duty.
Thus ended the affair of Greyhouse, and with it the last great adventure of Sherlock Holmes upon English soil. Cooper light. Yet even as I write these words, I cannot help but believe that somewhere beyond the reach of time and war, the keen eyes still watch, the mind still calculates, and the spirit of deduction, that pure relentless flame, burns undimmed. In the weeks that followed the affair of Greyhouse, a somber stillness seemed to descend upon England. The air itself felt heavy, expectant, as if the very elements were holding their breath. Newspapers brimmed with reports of mobilization and political ultimatums, while in every village, the sound of marching feet echoed faintly in the distance. The world was on the verge of catastrophe, and even in the quiet lanes of Sussex, one could feel the tremors of the coming storm. I had thought Holmes, after the triumph at Greyhouse, would retreat wholly to his bees, content to let younger men bear the burden of the new conflict. Yet I underestimated the restlessness of that extraordinary mind. The war, which drew millions into its dreadful machinery, could not fail to stir the old hunter's instinct in him. Oh, he no longer stalked criminals through the alleys of London, he now turned his gaze to the invisible enemies who moved behind nations. One crisp morning, as I sat upon his veranda overlooking the downs, I heard his voice from within the cottage, sharp, commanding, and unmistakably alive with purpose.
My dear Watson, leave your contemplation of nature and join me. I have something of interest that even the bees might envy.
Entering, you appear in excellent spirits, Holmes. Has some fresh mystery disturbed your peaceful retirement?
Not disturbed. My dear fellow, invigorated it. You recall, perhaps, that Elise von Hinden was delivered to London for interrogation?
No, indeed. I was told she maintained a stubborn silence.
True. Until this morning, she has spoken not to her captors, but through them. A letter, written in code, addressed to a Colonel Altamont. Oh, does the name strike a chord?
Altamont, yes. I recall a reference during our pursuit of Von Bork, an American, was he not?
Ostensibly American, yes. In reality, an Englishman turned mercenary whose talents in espionage have been bought by whichever side paid most. And, he was once in the employ of von Hurling himself, before vanishing with a substantial portion of German gold. Since then, both sides have sought him, one for his betrayal, the other for his knowledge.
And Elise's letter?
Contains, if my reading is correct, instructions for a rendezvous upon English soil. It appears Von Hurling seeks to reclaim his rogue agent, but I fancy the Colonel's interests now lean toward a different allegiance,
You believe he may offer his services to England?
or at least to Sherlock Holmes. Gah!
Holmes smiled faintly, and there was that glint in his eyes which had always preceded some daring stratagem.
I have sent a reply, of course, in Elise's hand. A meeting is arranged for tonight upon the coast near Beachy Head. You, my friend, shall accompany me. I have no doubt the game will prove worthy of our final bow.
And so, once more, I found myself beside him upon a lonely road beneath the stars. The wind of the channel was sharp and cold. The moon, half veiled by cloud, threw shifting patterns of silver upon the cliffs. Holmes walked briskly, his coat flapping behind him like the wings of some great bird.
We must be cautious, Watson. If Altamont is indeed in league with Berlin, this meeting could be fatal. On the other hand, should he desire redemption, we may gain from him intelligence of incalculable value.
You trust him then?
I trust no man until I have studied his handwriting, his hat, and the mud upon his boots.
We reached the appointed spot, a hollow near the cliff's edge where the gorse grew thick. The sea below boomed like distant artillery. Presently, a figure emerged from the shadows, broad of shoulder, wearing a heavy coat and a cap drawn low over his eyes.
A rough accent. You'll be the lady's messenger then?
Calmly, her messenger, and more. I come in her stead, Colonel. Elise von Hinden has withdrawn from service.
Dead, eh? I reckoned as much. She played a dangerous hand.
As do we all in this game. You have information, I believe, that concerns both our interests.